My name is Blair Simmons. I am a queer generative artist. I'm currently working in programming as my medium, but in the past and when I have access to machines and can go places, I also do a lot of digital fabrication. So I do a lot of 3D modeling and printing and rendering and have made a lot of sculptural work when I'm able to access it. But right now, programming is the easiest thing to be doing during a pandemic. My project is titled Print Dialogue, and it's a playwriting program. It generates short dialogues that before the pandemic were printed on stage for actors to read and perform for the first time, so they've never seen the scripts. The title alludes to one of the project's lines of code that runs right before I actually print on a printer the generated dialogue on which is sitting on stage. And the newly never before read printed dialogue is intended for actors to perform for the very first time. The title's double meaning always makes me laugh because it feels like my code is reminding me to actually print the dialogue after the program runs. So this is a snippet from one of my favorite scenes that my program has ever generated. And I think it was my favorite because I was really, really frustrated with my program when it generated this. So it says, and this is just a snippet, it's not the full thing, but when are you fixing a computer? I have a headache. I'm fixing a computer. You have an exhaustion from but I think so. This is my favorite scene that it's ever generated. And it will never generate this scene again.
So cool.
It was really difficult to do what I wanted to do when I set out to do it. I always wanted it to be a generated play that was different every time. And I experimented with machine learning and I experimented with a lot of different methods. But ultimately, what I really wanted to do was be able to create a logical thread. And I think with a lot of the machine learning out there, it's really funny and it's really fun to read and I really enjoy it, but I really wanted to have a little bit more control over the chaos. So I call this like controlled chaos. In order to create that kind of dialogue, a dialogue that sounded as if people were actually responding to each other, I utilized what is referred to as a semantic network. It's a way of defining words and phrases through their relationships to one another. So you can see in this diagram that all these words and phrases are interconnected. You can see squirrel can store nuts and has fur, and it has 4 legs, but as does a cat and a chair and a dog and an animal. They all have 4 legs. So these semantic networks exist. They're created through machine learning, or they're created through user data, people sitting at a computer making those connections. So these are really like human-made connections that are represented in these semantic networks. So what my program does is it navigates this semantic network. This is the first step in the process. So as we start with dog, it says a dog, 4 legs, and it's navigating it at random. So a dog, 4 legs, a desk. The desk is connected to stapler, which is connected to attaching more than one paper together. And so with this, we have dog. The connection with dog and 4 legs is has a dog, has 4 legs. 4 legs can be on a desk. And a thing that's located at a desk is a stapler. And a stapler is used for attaching more than one paper together, which seems logical. And then I take this list without the connections, but I take this list and I call it a thread, and I feed it into what can essentially be considered a Mad Lib. And so it looks a little bit like this. So for some of the nouns that we have, so it's like dog or desk, what could that be? A desk? What could that be? A dog? But imagine that you have a really high-tech Mad Lib and it actually looks a little bit more like this. And this is what my program looks like. If we're starting with the word what, you can, if you go towards the top, what if that dog were mine? That's how you get that sentence. And so So it's a little bit more complicated than this, but I think this is the best representation I have of this particular part of the process.
This is great. This is so cool. I'm fascinated. So
Yeah,
this is amazing.
amazing.
So the next thing is that we feed that thread that we just created through my super high-tech Mad Lib, which ends up, sounding something like the following, which is, I miss my dog. Look at those 4 legs. The desk. Oh, look, a stapler. We should be attaching more than one paper together. And so
I
this
see
is,
it.
yeah. And there it is. And so there are all the words and phrases from the Semantic Network that were then fed into my super high-tech Mad Lib. So I think that thing that's like the most exciting to me about this project is that by utilizing the relationships between these words and phrases that exist in the Semantic Network, we're able to make meaning from this short scene. For me, it feels like someone is reminiscing about their dog and someone else is, sitting, looking off, not paying attention, and thought that the other person was talking about the desk. And then the conversation spins to the things on the desk because the person who's missing their dog has been ignored. It's actually kind of a sad scene. It's really devastating. I'm really interested in what it means to mean something. So it's like if I intend the meaning to be generated instead of dictating, instead of saying like, I have a scene about X, Y, and Z, and this is what I want it to be about. I'm kind of more allowing the language to speak for itself and its connections to itself to speak for itself instead of me making those connections. And it's interesting because it's like, what does that mean for the performers and what does it mean for the readers? Because the piece doesn't have inherent meaning and like the normative sense of the word. So where do you place like this burden of interpretation? Do you place it on the audience? Do you place it on the actors, on the director? Do you place it on me? Once the script is generated on my computer, I actually just send it off to a wireless printer, which is sitting on stage, and actors get to see the script for the very first time in front of the audience. So that's what usually happens, but we're not doing that right now because of the pandemic. We are not performing things in person, but instead, what the Art and Code Microgrant is really allowing me to do is to turn this program that I wrote, and instead of having it be an onstage performance, allowing it to be something that exists online in an interactive space. And so I'm actually utilizing this moment to make the piece more interactive and something that you can access from anywhere. And the microgrant is allowing me to pay for the servers that it costs to put this piece online. So I'm really grateful and I'm really excited. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do this.